our students in our S.T.E.P.S program have really been becoming so much more independent. So we want to be able to share this information with you. I'm Dale Hopkins. I'm the Instructional Technology Program Consultant from Rochester Schools. And through the process, what we've done is gone through, Jeff and I had an idea. We just kind of did some brainstorming between the two of us, sat down, wrote the grant. And so all of the pieces that we talked about earlier in terms of grant writing, it really worked. And because we wanted to make a difference for our students, we want to be able to share with you the information about their independence, how they use iPads in the classroom and in a job situation. So I get to introduce this whole team. Katie is the teacher for the classroom, and Jen Anderson is also there on board to help with the students each day and in the job site scenarios. It is an amazing program. We have a video to show you as well. Jeff and I, as I mentioned, we talked about the process together initially, and when Katie heard about it, she said, sign me up. Katie?
Thank you. I'm going to first start off with just a little bit of background about my program. We're a post-secondary special ed program for students 18 to 26 who did not get a diploma in high school. Our main focus, probably says eventually, is independence and eventually living on their own or with some support, and also our focus in the job area. We have students out on job sites twice a week, so we want to try and make them as independent as possible. As it says, we transition from, the S.T.E.P.S acronym is for students transitioning from employment to personal success. And our important skills are vocational, social, and independent living while utilizing the community. Our students, as I said, are out on a job site twice a week, and we have a big community involvement. This is only our second year. We'll be finishing our second year of this program. And thus far, we've had multiple partnerships within our community. We have Crittenton Hospital, which we are right down the road from, and they've been a great partner for us. Warner's Hallmark store, we've had students in the store and in their warehouse itself. Dillman and Upton is a local hardware store. Thank you. Ram's Horn, the restaurant, which is the most favorite spot out of all my students. They love working at Ram's Horn. Bordine's Nursery. Chartwell's Food Service, which is the food distribution company for our district, and then Sabre Industrial Group, which is a cleaning service that goes into corporate offices and cleans. So they have been a huge part of our program. We are always looking to add on more places because we'd like to make sure we have sites that are for the student needs and the student desires, because obviously if you work in a job you don't really care about, you're not going to give in as much effort as possible. So we're always expanding. And our community partners, we're associated with the Rochester Chamber of Commerce, Michigan Rehabilitation Services, which helps the student once they are pretty much done with school, helping place them into a job site. Community Housing Network, to find housing for the students once they're done. They are educated, they have the option to be educated till 26, but we're starting to see some students exit earlier because they figure, I've got everything I need, I want to go out, I want to be on my own, I want to live like a normal 23, 24-year-old, so there are some housing options there for them as well. We're also affiliated with Oakland Schools. We receive a lot of training from them and assistance from them as well. And Community Mental Health, which is your MORC and CLS, your community agencies that are on board with the student while they're in school, and then they help transition them once they are done with school. Our 2 days that we're out on the job site, we start off in the classroom for about 45 minutes where we discuss the job site. I kind of review just like kind of the basics, the proper etiquette, how to talk to people, how to respond. Then they go out, they're on their own for about 4 to 5 hours during the day. Based on students' needs, we either have someone with them at the site all the time, or we have a job coach that travels to multiple sites, so students don't always have a job coach right with them at that time, which is where the iPads eventually come in handy. And at the end of the day, once they return, there's about another 45 minutes where we debrief. We talk about what happened at work, we problem solve, to kind of make sure that if a situation occurs again, we would be more prepared to deal with that. As I said, this is where the iPad grant really came in handy. When I had heard about it, we're always looking to make our students more independent. And as I said, one of our biggest goals in our program is to get them ready on the site. So we had suggested some of our goals for our MiCTA grant was to videotape job tasks from start to finish when the students are out on their site. And that would be used for some training purposes. Before my students go out to a new site, we have a training day. So those videos can be used for the students who will eventually be there. So my students who are at Crittenton right now, they're videotaping some of the tasks that they do so that the students who go there next semester have a video to watch and to kind of see what some of the tasks they will be doing. It will help new students learn new tasks as they go to their site. It has a nice visual. Some of my students are much more visual. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to read it. They want to see it. So that's a nice resource for them. And it increases the independence. We pull the adult away. Instead, they are given the iPad and they use that instead of the adult standing over them telling them, do this next. No, don't do this. This is what you got to do. The iPad has kind of given them more independence with that. We've also, part of our grant, we wanted to use the Facetime. As I indicated, we don't have job coaches at every single site with the students, so it would be nice to be able to Facetime. If the students had a problem at the site, they would be able to Facetime their job coach, talk to them. The job coach might be able to help them through it. They can kind of problem solve together. But that way the job coach doesn't have to leave one site to go to another, and it would be instant communication for them. It would also be another way for my students to check in with someone to let us know that they did arrive to their site on time and that they are beginning. iPads also serve to take a photo of the job tasks as a reference, as I indicated. Here are some of my students using their iPads at their site. Christina here is taking a picture with her iPad of a shelf that a few shelves she was asked to dust, and she was worried when she took everything off the shelf, she didn't think she'd be able to put it all back in the same spot. So she took a picture of the shelf prior to taking everything off, so that she was able to reference it. Once she dusted it, she used the picture that she took to put everything back on the shelf in the correct way. The young man over here, PJ, he's referencing his iPad to see what tasks still need to be done. PJ is one student that we have done multiple sources to help him. We've done the paper, we've done the Velcro, we've done the pictures, we've done everything. But PJ loves technology. So even though what we did on paper is the same thing of what's on his iPad, he's using the iPad and he's responding much more because he's a technology person. So even though he's going into the reminders and just checks off one when he's done, even though he did that with paper and pencil, it's just not the same. He's loving the fact that it's on an iPad and it's made him more independent. The job coach has been able to pull herself back, so that has been a success. Here's a video of Christina at Boardines.
Can you explain, Christina, can you explain what your job is today and how you're using the iPad to help you?
Yeah, I take these items off the shelf, then I put them on the second shelf, and then I take the spray right here, and then I spray the shelf, and then I take this little rag thing right here and right down the shelf, and then I take a picture of it, of the item, and then I put it right here, and then as I'm done spraying the shelf, I put the items back on the shelf, and I look at the items on the item board, and then I put them back on the shelf as they look right here.
So that you make sure that you're putting them back correctly the way that you found them, correct?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So do you like using the iPad?
Yeah.
Does it help you with some certain tasks?
Yeah.
What about, can you flip over to your task list as well that you have for the day? One more. It's okay. Very good. So you've got your task list on there to tell you what to do for the day as well.
Yep.
So if Diane, your job coach, isn't here, you know what to do next.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Christina.
A few other examples. We use them, our biggest component is with the job site, but we also want to use them for the community and at home. My students have an email assignment they have to do every morning, and before these iPads, we had old laptops that I think were hand-me-down type things. Sorry. Yeah, they were really bad. It took about a good half hour for them to even boot up, and then half the time they wouldn't access the wireless. And so now everyone has their iPads. They can jump on, they do their email assignment, and we're done usually within 10 minutes. Where before I had to really program almost 40 minutes for this activity. So it's definitely a time saver in that aspect. And then when we first started with our iPad, some of my students were they were new. Some of my students don't like change, and they had never seen something like this before. So we really took like the first 2 or 3 weeks, and all we did was have them play their games on it, just so that they become familiar with even the flipping of the page. Christina had never flipped a page before. She had no idea how to work it. So we really took just the first few weeks to embrace it so that they would become familiar and enjoy it and find that it is a very useful task. So Michael wanted me to take a picture of him playing bowling to let everyone know that he has fun with it as well. This is Christina using her iPad for an app we had put on her for a medicine reminder. She has to take medication every day when she gets home, and she said she wasn't very good at remembering to take it. So we put an app on it, and it sets it off at a certain time, so she knows at 3 o'clock every day her reminder will go off, and now she's much more consistent with taking her medication. Some considerations, some things that we have come across as we have started this. I believe we really implemented this middle of January, February type. So some of the things that we came across is iPad chargers were needed for home. My students were able to take their iPads home, but over the weekend, some of them would say, I don't have a charger at home, and it died Saturday night, and I couldn't use it anymore. So that was something that we kind of had to brainstorm and come up with how are we going to be able to give them the chargers at home, because we had a set of them in the classroom that we needed them for, but also finding more for at home. Not all students have wireless at home, so some of the programs that I was having them do, or some of the nutrition lessons I was having them do, they needed to access the wireless, and I didn't really consider it that not everyone has wireless at home, so we kind of hit that little bump in the road. All of our iPads are on the same account, so when you FaceTime one, you FaceTime all of them. So it kind of got into we weren't able to use them as much on the job site, but I know that we are looking to make those changes for next year so that each iPad will have their own account, so then we'll be able to FaceTime, because it got a little confusing when we went to FaceTime Joe, but, everyone else was able to see it as well. It didn't really work the way we wanted. Which is what we said, that each iPad is on one account, so we also couldn't connect their own email to it. They had to still go into the internet to pull up Yahoo or their site so that they could then log in. We've since added an app for Gmail and Google and Yahoo. Thank you. So that is much quicker, but at first that was a little problem that we ran into. I have a student I have 2 students with a vision impairment, and I know with the iPad they have the enlargement option. I don't know if you've ever used it though, but it's not very user-friendly. Once it's enlarged, you then have to use 3 fingers to move it across, and if you touch it with only 2, it won't move, and if you touch it with 4, something else happens. My student didn't have a lot of patience with it. So that was one other issue that we kind of came across, is that the enlargement feature for this iPad wasn't the best for this particular student. And resources for buying apps. We have found some wonderful resources out there and some supplemental things to add to what we do during the day. But it also came down to, well, it costs money. So that was another thing I hadn't really thought about. I was just like, well, sure, we'll get some apps for it, but not really considering that I would need money to buy those apps. Oops. And then this is us. We just want to make sure that we thank MiCTA, because without them we could not be making these advances. My students are doing so much better, the ones that are using it on the job site. We are taking them into the community more, and just sitting here I was getting some more ideas of how I can implement it even more next year. So we do want to thank you. It has been a wonderful opportunity, and we just hope to keep growing with it as the years go. Thank you.